Star Fox 64 is a timeless game that takes what in reality is a very simple concept and makes it into something greater than the sum of its parts. Style and fun ooze out of this gem, and even 25 years after its release, this sci-fi classic is still remembered as one of the greatest games in the N64 and one of the greatest rail shooters of all time. Released by Nintendo in 1997, Star Fox 64 throws you into the midst of a futuristic war spanning the entirety of a solar system known as the Lilat system. The evil Andros and his armies have returned from exile and are set to destroy everything when you, Fox Mcloud, and your crack team of space fighter pilots are called in to save the day. Throughout the 6 or so hour runtime, you'll set out on multiple campaigns spanning 17 different planets and locations, and pilot everything from R-Wing space fighters to submarines and tanks. The world is brought to life in a number of ways, the first being the fantastic voice acting and characters. Each of your 3 team members spend the majority of the game calling out enemies, asking for help, and cracking one-liners. Every level has its own wild and mind-bending boss that range from Andros' lieutenants piloting enormous secret superweapons to forgotten monsters inhabiting stars. Many of these bosses will taunt you as they take down your friends one by one, and old allies of yours even join the fight sometimes to even the odds. All of this amounts to an experience straight out of an anime or classic cartoon, and it's a joy to behold. The other piece of Star Fox that brings the world to life is its amazing visuals. Each planet feels extremely unique, and because of this, launching into the next mission never gets old. From the darkest depths of an ocean planet to asteroid belts and surfaces of stars, this game will amaze you with its creativity and action-packed scenes. In addition to this, interesting twists are added along the way to make what was already an action-packed adventure even more cinematic. One of my favorite features in the game is the ability to put yourself into first person and weave in and out of laser fire and all manner of obstacles directly from your cockpit in epic fashion. Seeing this on the Nintendo 64 when it released must have been a sight to behold, and even with its aging visuals, it still managed to keep a fairly ageless aesthetic today. What does not feel timeless, however, are the few encounters in the game with your rival fighter squad known as Star Wolf. In these sections, the game goes off the rails and allows you to have dogfights in a large set-piece area. These parts are by far the hardest sections of the game. The members of Star Wolf seem to be crack pilots and pretty much endlessly tail you, and your team seems to become more spectators than allies in these battles. Here's a clip of me having to resort to flailing all over the place just to keep myself from dying as my ally aimlessly spins around in the background during one of these encounters. The Star Wolf battles were frustrating, more due to the fact that they were massive difficulty spikes when compared to the rest of the game, than due to them being outright bad. I did actually find more appreciation for the controls and dogfight system as I retried this section in particular many times. The game forces you to make use of basically every mechanic, from barrel rolls and flips to break turns, in order to win, and once you do, it does really feel satisfying, and like you've beaten the odds in a true fighter pilot game. Another negative in regards to this fight is that the game basically functions like an arcade game in that you have a limited number of lives, and if you lose them all, you have to restart the game. This is normally not an issue, but when you're faced with a spike and challenge like these, it can become a bit of a problem. Luckily for me, I was playing on an emulated version of the game using the Project 64 emulator. In this program, you can actually create saves that I did not believe were available on the Nintendo 64 version. The emulated version also lets you play the game at nearly any modern resolution, and allows you to improve the graphics with a number of settings. I found that turning on high resolution noise, turning anti-aliasing to max, and using the highest level of graphics enhancement had the best effects. You may also need to mess with the overscan option because the base widescreen version on the emulator leaves some black bars on the sides of the game. In addition to being on the N64 and PC via emulation, Star Fox 64 is actually available on the 3DS in the form of a remake, and on the Nintendo Switch if you pay for the N64 expansion pass. Also, Star Fox is one of the few games I actually recommend you play with an N64 controller, as the layout of the controller suits the game's controls better than a modern gamepad like the Xbox controller I used. Getting back to the positives, Star Fox actually makes use of a very unique campaign layout. Each time you play through the game, you'll most likely end up taking completely different paths through the solar system the game is set in. You will miss much of the content that's on offer here if you play through it only once. Multiple endings can be found taking different routes, and even multiple difficulties can be found. Star Fox actually does something I've never really seen in a game, in that the difficulty is not a setting, but a path you can take. To find these alternate paths, you'll have to play each level differently as you go. Succeeding or failing on a section could completely determine what difficulty and experience you'll receive as the game progresses. New bosses and characters can also be found if you succeed at unlocking the alternate paths. I don't want to spoil these for you, so the only advice I'll give is to listen to your squad, as many times they'll give you subtle hints about what you could be doing to succeed or change course. But in the end, Star Fox 64 remains an all-time classic, one of my favorite Nintendo games, and an experience you should check out. The cinematic moments, fantastic music, and fun characters all make for an experience that was ahead of its time when it was released. Despite a short runtime, this game manages to leave you with a great lasting impression that has not really been surpassed by its peers since. For all these reasons and more, I'm giving Star Fox 64 an 8 out of 10.